Today we're going to review the present tense. The present tense is what we use when we're talking about what's happening now in the present time. Keep in mind that when we use the Spanish present tense, for example, leo here, that is used for all three of the English forms of the present tense. Not only I read, but also I am reading and I do read. Okay, let's start with the present tense of the AR verbs, okay? Using hablar, to talk or to speak, for our example. The first thing we do when we conjugate for different persons is take off the AR ending, okay? So that leaves us with the root habla. To that, we add O for the yo form, hablo. Notice that all the rest of the endings start with A. It's an AR verb, so they all start with A. Then we add an S for to, nothing to el, ella, usted, habla is complete. Mos for nosotros. We accent the A and add is for vosotros, and we add an N to the plural form. 85% of all Spanish verbs are AR verbs, and they conjugate just like this. Now we'll look at the present tense conjugations for ER and IR verbs, using beber, to drink, and vivir, to live, for our examples. In both cases, we take off the ER ending here, the IR ending here, to leave the root form of the verb. To that, we add, for the yo form, O. Notice that for beber, the ER verb, all of the other conjugations begin with an E. It's an ER verb, they begin with E. And then we add S for to, mos for nosotros, we accent the E and add is for vosotros, and we add N for the plural form. Okay, so the same kind of thing we did for the AR verbs. Notice that with the IR verbs, vivir, the majority of its endings also start with E. The only exceptions are the nosotros and vosotros, where it's imos, and there's no such thing as a double I in Spanish, so we accent the I and just add S. Okay? IR verb endings are the same as ER verb endings except for nosotros and vosotros when it uses its own vowel. Looking at all three of the verb endings together, we see that all the yo forms end in O. Okay? All of the AR verbs then have their endings begin with A. All of the ER verbs have their endings begin with E. And the to, la, usted, and the plural forms of the IR verb also begin with E. To all of them, we add the S for the two forms, nothing for the la, usted form, mos for the nosotros form. We accent the vowel, A for the AR verbs, E for the ER verbs, and I for the IR verbs. And then for the AR and ER, we also add an I before adding the S in the vosotros form. And the plurals, we add an N. Okay? So, all yo forms end in O, all to forms end in S, all plurals end in N, all nosotros end in mos. Each verb uses its own A for AR verbs, E for IR verbs, I for IR verbs, its own vowel for the nosotros and vosotros forms. Okay? And in the vosotros form, that vowel will be accented. and that's the present tense.